Hello everybody, and welcome back to another god-awful fanfic reading with Dreigonix and friends. Today I'm here with End.
Hello.
And today we are reading a Harry Potter fanfic that was once thought lost to the depths of time. But I managed to find PDFs of all 6 installments in this god-awful series. It is called The Girl Who Lived, otherwise known as the Rose Potter Saga. And it is, apparently it was born out of the mind of one Kieran Halcyon, who apparently decided to write this because he thought that the character of Harry Potter, quote, lacked common sense. So, I mean, aside from that being a stupid criticism anyway, I mean, he's a human character, and a very emotional one at that. Of course he's gonna make some decisions that turned out not to be the best. He's a flawed character. And of course, you know what that means. We need to scrub all his flaws and make him a complete Mary Sue. Basically, what he was trying to do, allegedly, I guess he was trying to write Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality, except even worse, because Methods of Rationality was a parody. He was entirely serious about this. And he did this by basically plagiarizing the entire books and replacing Harry with Rose Potter, an entitlement Sue on the level of Jenna from My Inner Life. I have read through some, and you said you, weren't very knowledgeable about Harry Potter, right?
I've only seen the movies.
I've
as much as I remember.
I've read all the books and seen all the movies, but don't worry. These are basically identical to the books in a lot of ways. Sometimes there are some long stretches of just plagiarism that you almost forget you're not reading the books. The only indicator is that it's now in first person. But, I guess, we might as well just start right now. We're gonna start with Rose Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. There it goes. And I'm thinking, and these are long as hell, so, we'll probably just read a few chapters per part. We're definitely gonna do this in multiple parts, and we're probably gonna have different guests on and off as this series goes on. Okay, but anyway. Okay. So, Rose Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Book 1, Chapter 1, The Snake. Nearly 10 years had passed since the Dursleys had woken up to find me on the front step, but Privet Drive had hardly changed at all. The sun rose on the same tidy front gardens and lit up the brass number 4 on the Dursleys' front door. It crept into their living room, which is almost exactly the same as it had been on the night when Mr. Dursley had seen that fateful news report about owls being sighted all across the country. Only the photographs on the mantelpiece... is that how you spell it? No, I don't think that's how you spell it. Really showed how much time has passed. 10 years ago, there had been lots of pictures of what looked like a large pink beach ball wearing different colored bobble hats. But Dudley Dursley was no longer a baby, and now photographs showed a large blonde boy riding his first bicycle on a roundabout the fair, playing a computer game with his father, being hugged and kissed by his mother. The room held no signs that I lived in the house too. And yep, it's in first person. Because, I mean, I guess that would actually be an okay idea.
It would be fine if it wasn't so obvious that it was a sort of retconning the entire series.
Yeah, yeah, telling the story through Harry's point of view might actually allow us to get deeper into his character. I mean, the books as they're written are fine. I mean, I love them, but yeah, and but though this would be an interesting idea if not for the everything else about this. Okay. Yet I was still there, asleep at the moment, but not for long. My Aunt Petunia was awake, and it was her shrill voice which made the first noise of the day. Up! Get up! Now! I woke with a start. My aunt rapped on the door again. Hey, yo, Aunt Petunia in the house. I can't freestyle, but something about a mouse. Yeah, I cannot freestyle. That's, okay, moving on. Up! She screeched. I heard her walking toward the kitchen and then the sound of the frying pan being put on the cooker. I rolled onto my back and tried to remember the dream I'd been having. It had been a good one. There had been a flying motorbike in it. I had a funny feeling I'd had the same dream before. My aunt was back outside the door. Are you up yet? She demanded. Nearly, I replied. Well, get a move on. I want you to look after the bacon. And don't you dare let it burn. I want everything perfect on Dudley's birthday. That's the day I inwardly groaned and my lip curled into a disgusted scowl. Dudley's birthday. How could I have forgotten? I got slowly out of bed and started looking for socks. I found a pair under my bed, and after pulling a spider off of one of them, put them on. I was used to spiders because the cupboard under the stairs was full of them, and that was where I slept. When I was dressed, I went down the hall into the kitchen. The table was almost hidden beneath all of Dudley's birthday presents. It looked as though Dudley had gotten the new computer he wanted, not to mention the second television and the racing bike. Exactly, yep, again, this is completely identical to the books, just, yeah. Exactly why Dudley wanted a racing bike was a mystery to me, as Dudley was very fat and hated exercise, unless it involved punching somebody. Dudley's favorite punch. Yeah, here's the thing. The problem with just splicing all of the narrator dialogue into Harry or Rose's thoughts is that the narrator is omniscient. Harry isn't. I mean, Rose might be, because, you know, Mary Sue, but yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, and, yeah, here's where things actually start taking off. Excuse me. Okay. Dudley's favorite punching bag had been me until I was 7 years old. As during the first year of primary schooling, capitals, a teacher had witnessed Dudley's attempt to catch me, and had taken me under his wing, so to speak, and taught me martial arts classes every day after school. Yep.
That makes... What good would that do you? What good does that change do later on?
It's like...
Because... Are you gonna punch someone who's gonna, like, be flinging magic everywhere at you?
Hadouken! Yeah, here's the thing. Yeah, again, right from the start, this already throws out any semblance of the original concept of this story. Because this isn't a character flaw on Harry's part. This is just giving Rose stuff. Giving Rose special powers and stuff.
It's
Starting her off at a higher... Yeah,
Sorry.
just starting her off at a higher power level. Level. Yeah, when I had a full year of classes under her belt, the perspective swap, when I had a full year of classes under her belt, I got tired one day of being chased by Dudley and stood my ground. The result being that Dudley had to go to the hospital for a cast on his arm, which I had neatly broken. Yeah.
Wow.
And
They've already lost any sort of humanification.
Yep,
So,
and the
whatever
beginning. This is just the beginning of Rose Potter's violent genocidal tendencies, as she murders her way through the series. Yeah, it startled me to find that I had that much strength. By the time I was 9, not a single boy in school dared approach me, as Dudley and his gang suffered more visits to the doctor for their attempts to beat me up. My sensei was also befuddled at the almost unnatural strength that I showed. Many punching bags had to be replaced over time. Yep, forget any semblance of the unusual happenings that were a tell of Harry's wizardly nature. No, Rose Potter just is more punchy than anyone else. She is a girl what fight gooder than everyone else.
You see, the point of Harry being bullied was to show that where he wasn't a comfortable life, where he felt that he didn't belong.
Yeah.
And what that was supposed to show is that he had a bigger purpose later on.
Yeah, and another thing, and not only that, but it's the thing where, no, wait, I was thinking of something from another series, never mind. Yeah, okay. Okay. I didn't look it, but I was also very fast. Sanic the Hedgehog. Perhaps it had something to do with living in a dark cupboard, but I looked small and skinny for my age, as all I had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley was about 4 times bigger than I was. I had a thin face, knobbling knees, long black hair that reached to my shoulders, and bright green eyes. Are we serious? Okay. This is another thing. Pro tip to writers. Never start your thing, but never have your POV character describe their appearance to the audience. It just makes them look conceited and vain. Then again,
would you yourself explain what you look like to someone who isn't there?
Yeah. The only thing I liked about my own appearance was a very thin scar on my forehead, which was shaped like a bolt of lightning. A little edgelord. I had as long as I could remember, and the first question I could ever remember asking my Aunt Petunia was how I got it. In the car crash when your parents died, she had said, and don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. That was the first rule for a quiet life with the Dursleys. Uncle Vernon entered the kitchen as I was turning over the bacon. "Comb your hair," he barked by way of a morning greeting. I inwardly scoffed at that. It would have helped if they provided me with a brush, but I only had my fingers and the elastics that I got from my sensei. About once a week, Uncle Vernon looked over the top of his newspaper and shouted that I needed a haircut. I must have had more haircuts than the rest of the girls in my class put together, but it made no difference. My hair simply grew back to the length and style that I currently had. I was frying eggs by the time Dudley arrived at the kitchen with his mother. Dudley looked a lot like Uncle Vernon. He had a large pink face, not much neck, small watery blue eyes, and thick blonde hair that lay smoothly on his thick fat head. Thick. But in other words, he looked nothing like what he looked like in the movies. But hey, whatever. They changed a lot of changed a lot of people's appearances for the movies. Honestly, the movie appearances have become far more iconic at this point, so I'm not gonna gripe about that. That's, And Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. I often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. Yep, once again, this is plagiarized from the book.
Alright, I'm gonna mute myself because the power just went out. 1 second.
Yeah, hang on. Hang on, should I send you the, should I send you the PDF so you can read along? Hang on. Yeah, Woody is working on the, image, on the thumbnail image for the, for the video as we speak. Which will probably be the image you're looking at right now if you're watching this. But it's because we're gonna put that in afterwards once I edit that. Okay. So, apparently End is fixing a circuit breaker. Hang on. Excuse me, I'm not feeling very well. I'm like perpetually sick when I do these. Okay. I put the plates of egg and bacon on the table, which is difficult as there wasn't much room. Dudley, meanwhile, was counting his presents. His face fell. 36, he said, looking at his mother and father. That's 2 less than last year. Darling, you haven't counted Auntie Marge's present. See, it's here under this big one from Mommy and Daddy. Alright, 37 then, said Dudley. I'm going red in the face. I could see a, huge Dudley tantrum coming on, so on precaution began wolfing down my bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned the table over. Nuclear Tesuji! It disgusted me that Dudley was spoiled so much. When I was younger, I was jealous. But that fate is my sensei taught me the ways of life and some minor, easy-to-understand philosophy. Dudley was a spoiled little brat who had absolutely no appreciation for the luxury his life had. He only had to look at television news to see starving children in war-torn countries for that. Yep, let's just preach to the audience. Forget actually showing these things, just tell them.
Yeah.
There you are. Okay, and Petunia obviously also scented danger too. You smell that? That's death. Because she said quickly, and we'll buy you another 2 presents while we're out today. How's that, Pumpkin? Dudley thought for a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, so I'll have 39, you ignoramus, I thought, exasperated. Another very out-of-character interjection from that. 39, sweetums, said Aunt Petunia. Oh, said Dudley and sat down heavily and grabbed the nearest parcel. All right then, Uncle Vernon chuckled. Little Tyke wants his money's worth, just like his father. Attaboy, Dudley. He ruffled Dudley's hair. At that moment, the telephone rang and Aunt Petunia went to answer it while Uncle... Yeah, it's like... It's kind of... Aside from the occasional horrible interjection, this first part isn't really all that interesting. It's not like something like My Immortal, where it starts off with just pure atrociousness. While Uncle Vernon and I watched Dudley unwrap the racing bike, a cine camera, a remote-controlled airplane, 16 new computer games, and a video recorder. He was ripping the paper off a gold wristwatch. I just wanna roly with a dab! I apologize. When Aunt Petunia came back from the telephone, looking both angry and worried. Bad news, Vernon, she said. Mrs. Fig's broken her leg. She can't take her. She jerked her head in my direction. Dudley's mouth fell open in horror, but my heart gave a leap. Every day on Dudley's birthday, his parents came and a friend out for the day to adventure parks, hamburger bars, at the cinema. Every year I was left behind with Mrs. Fig. A mad old lady lived 2 streets away. I hated it there. The whole house smelled of cabbage, and Mrs. Fig made me look at photographs of all the cats she'd ever owned. Should I just... should I just skip most of this?
Well, that's if you want to.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so basically just the same stuff. The zoo, taking the zoo, Dudley is whining. Yeah, okay, yeah, just then the doorbell rang. Oh, good lord, they're here, said Aunt Petunia frantically. And a moment later, Dudley's best friend, Piers Polkus, walked in with his mother. Piers is a scrawny boy with a face like a rat. He was usually the one who held people's arms behind their backs while Dudley hit them. I had found myself in my position as well. That position as well once. A nice rear snap kick to Piers's groin had got me out of that one. The rat boy had walked awkwardly for a week because God forbid Mary Sue ever have to suffer or be inconvenienced. Dudley stopped pretending to cry once as his best friend came in. Half an hour later I couldn't believe my luck. I was sitting in the back of the Jersey Scar with Piers and Dudley on the way to the zoo for the first time in my life, and all I've been able to think of anything else to do with me, they're taking it aside. I'm warning you now, girl. Any funny business, anything at all, and you'll be in that cupboard from now until Christmas. my jaw... My jaw clenched in anger. All it would take would be one flat palm strike to Uncle Vernon's nose, and he would be booking time at the plastic surgeon. But if my sensei had instilled one virtue in me, it was to always use the arts for self-defense only. Yeah, really. Sure. Let's see if her...
If it wasn't for that, she literally... It sounds like she's just generally violent.
Yeah,
she's not likable at all.
She's a freaking sociopath. Dudley may be a jerk, but Rosie is a school shooter waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I took a deep breath and calmed my anger in mind, letting it go. As water splashing off my back, I recited the mantra in my mind. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna do anything, I said, honestly. But Uncle Vernon didn't believe me. Excuse me. No one ever did, except my sensei. The problem was, despite my totally unnatural strength, my sensei said it should have belonged to three men in their prime. Other strange things often happened around me, and it was just no good telling the Dursleys that I didn't make them happen. Yeah, once Aunt Petunia, tired of me coming back from the salon looking as though I hadn't been at all, had taken a pair of kitchen scissors and cut my hair so short I was almost bald, except for my fringe. Yep, not her bangs, her fringe. Yep, she's got an emo fringe. And I am in no position to criticize your nice, stupid OC's hair when I look the way I do. Live a maelstrom, dark wrath. Which she left to hide that horrible scar. Dudley had laughed himself silly at me, and I spent a sleepless night imagining school the next day, whereas I also already laughed at for my baggy boys' clothes. The next morning, however, I got up to find my hair exactly as it had been before Aunt Petunia had shoot it off. I had been given a week in the cupboard for this, even though I tried to explain that I couldn't explain how it had gone back so quickly. Another time, Petunia had been trying to force me into a revolting old jumper of Dudley's, brown with orange bobbles. The harder she tried to pull over my head, the smaller it seemed to become, until finally it might have fitted a hand puppet, but certainly wouldn't fit me. Aunt Petunia must have shrunk in the wash, and to great my great relief, I wasn't punished. On the other hand, I've gotten some terrible trouble from being found on the roof of the school kitchens. Dudley's gang had been chasing me as usual, and as much to my surprise as anyone else, there I was sitting on the chimney. Despite my sensei's attempts to smooth things over with the headmistress, the Dursleys had received a very angry letter telling them that I had been climbing the school buildings, but all I tried to do was jump behind the big bins outside the kitchen door. I discussed this with my sensei, and 3 years later I had perfected an astonishing ability, but one which my sensei had admonished me never use unless necessary. Yep! She has perfected she has not even discovered she has not even discovered that she is a wizard yet. And she has already perfected instant transmission.
Amazing. I bet I could achieve that in a few days.
Yeah, I'm sure you could, but you're a shadow lily, so What do I expect?
Yes.
But today, nothing was gonna go wrong. It grated on me that it had to be with Dudley and Piers that I would be spending the day somewhere there wasn't school, in my cupboard, or this Fig's cabbage-smelling living room. While I drove and complained to Aunt Petunia, I like to complain about things. People at work, me, the council, me, the bank, and me, just a few others. One of his motorbikes, roaring along like maniacs, the young hoodlums, he said, as a motorbike overtook them. I had a dream about a motorbike, I said, remembering suddenly. It was flying. Uncle Vernon nearly crashed into the car up front. He turned right around in the seat and yelled at me, his face like a gigantic beetroot with a mustache. Motorbikes don't fly! Dudley and P. Okay, yeah. Okay, another thing I gotta give a very begrudging compliment to this story for. I like how they reconstructed certain aspects of certain events here. So yeah, it's like he couldn't start with the prologue because it's in first person, but he moved this conversation to the car ride to, if I remember correctly, they had this when they were in the I don't know if the okay, it's been a while since I've read Sorcerer's Stone, but so I might be wrong about this, but if I remember correctly, the car ride to the zoo wasn't detailed.
Yeah, I don't think there wasn't even anything about it in the movie, I don't think, either.
Yeah, they just skipped straight to the zoo because, well, that's just one of the things you do, and you don't really need to... Yeah, no one needs to see long, boring car rides and conversations. But yeah, anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Dudley and Piers snickered, but silenced themselves when I glared at them. I know they don't, I responded. It was only a dream. It was a very sunny Saturday, and the zoo was crowded with families. The Dursleys bought Dudley and Piers large chocolate ice creams at the entrance, and then, because the smiling lady in the van had asked me what I wanted before they could hurry me away, they bought me a cheap lemon ice lolly. It was... Not to be confused with a shadow lolly. It wasn't bad either, I thought, licking it as we watched a gorilla scratching its head and looking remarkably like Dudley, except it wasn't blonde. The ice lolly wasn't blonde. Well, yeah, if it was an ice lolly, it would be Cerno. But, okay. That was the best morning I'd had in a long time. I was careful to walk a little away from... apart from the Dursleys, so that Dudley and Piers, who were starting to get bored with the animals by lunchtime, so that Dudley and Piers, who were starting to get bored with the animals by lunchtime, so I would be ready if they lapsed into... Sentence structure, you jerk! He lapsed into a regression and decided to try and hit me. They ate in the zoo restaurant, and when Dudley had a tantrum because his Knickerbocker glory wasn't big enough, Uncle Vernon bought him another one, and I was allowed to finish the first. But damn, yeah, I felt afterwards that I should have known it was all too good to last. After we went lunch, we went to the reptile house. It was cool and dark in here, with lit windows, fam, all along the walls. I apologize for that. Behind the glass, all sorts of lizards and snakes. I'm doing anything I can to make this section interesting, because I mean, not that I don't want to imply that it's. Hang on, I just accidentally set my mic to omnidirectional. Yeah, I can switch the pickup radius on my mic. Yeah, not to say that this isn't interesting. It wasn't interesting in the original books, but we're here for horrible fanfic monstrosities. Not good stuff. Okay. Behind the glass, all sorts of lizards and snakes were crawling and slithering over bits of wood and stone. Dudley and Piers wanted to see huge, venomous cobras and thick, man-crushing pythons. Dudley quickly found the largest snake in the place. It could have wrapped its body twice around Uncle Vernon's car and crushed into a dustbin, but at the moment it didn't look in the mood. In fact, it was fast asleep. Dudley stood with his nose pressed against the glass, staring at the glistening brown clothes. Make it move, he wanted his father. Uncle Vernon tapped on the glass, but the snake didn't budge. This is boring. Yeah, like this first bit. Dudley and shuffled away. I moved in front of the tank, looked intently at the snake. I wouldn't be surprised if it died of boredom itself. No company except stupid people drumming their fingers on the glass trying to disturb it all day long. It was worse than having cupboards as a bedroom where the only visitor was Petunia hammering on the door to wake you up. At least I got to visit the rest of the house. The snake suddenly opened its beady eyes. Slowly, very slowly, it raised its head until its eyes were on a level with mine. It winked. I stared in astonishment. Then I looked quickly around to see if anyone was watching. No one was. I looked back at the snake and winked too. The snake jerked its head towards Uncle Vernon and Dudley, then raised its eyes to the ceiling. It gave me a look that said quite plainly, I get that all the time. I know, I murmured through the glass, though I wasn't sure the snake could hear me. It must be really annoying. The snake nodded vigorously. Where do you come from, anyway? I asked. The snake jabbed its tail at a little sign next to the glass. I peered at it. Boa constrictor, Brazil. Was it nice there? The boa constrictor jabbed its tail at the sign again, and I read on. This specimen was bred in the zoo. Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil? The snake shook its head. A deafening shout behind you made us both jump. Dudley! Mr. Dursley! Come and look at the snake! You won't believe what it's doing! Believe. Dudley came... Dudley came waddling towards him as fast as he could. Out of the way, you, he said, punching me in the ribs. Caught by surprise, I fell backwards and stuck my right leg behind my left and let the momentum carry me in a backwards roll, which I had combat roll, which I had practiced so often with my sensei, I could do it in my sleep. Yep, he does. Again, God's forbid Mary Sue be remotely inconvenienced or have to suffer in any way whatsoever. She can't even fall on the floor like Harry did. No, she has to do a badass combat roll.
Like, geez, where's the human in this person?
There is no human, only Mary Sue. I was on her feet a moment after. I was on her feet. Whose feet? Your sensei's feet? Are we getting kinky here?
Oh boy.
Okay. Oh crap. And I was consumed by anger and rage. At that moment, I felt something inside me reach out. What next happened so fast, no one saw how it happened except for me. 1 second, Piers and Dudley were leaning right up close to the glass. Next, they fell forward with howls of horror. I guessed. The glass front of the boa constrictor's tank had vanished. The great snake was uncoiling itself rapidly, slithering out onto the floor. People throughout the reptile house screamed and started running for the exits. As the snake slid swiftly past me, I heard that in a low hissing voice the snake said, Brazil, here I come. Thanks, Senorita. That's not how you spell senorita. It's spelled with an N with a squiggly line over it. Senorita. Film noir. It was then that I noticed an unfortunate side effect of the vanishing glass. Dudley and Piers had leaned so hard on it that when it disappeared, they fell forward into the tank. But now that I looked again, the glass had reappeared and the two crying boys were trapped inside. The situation as a whole then caught up with me, and I could not stop the wide, malicious grin that grew on my face. See, she is malicious! It was lucky that I had such good mental discipline, otherwise I would have been rolling on the floor in laughter. In my opinion, Dudley had just found his true home. But Uncle Vernon had noticed my expression, and when we were back at number 4, he waited until Piers had left the house before staring at me. It was so angry he could hardly speak. He managed to say, "Go, cupboard, stay, no meals," before he collapsed into a chair and Aunt Petunia had to run and get him a large brandy. I dark cupboard much later, wishing I had a watch. I didn't know what time it was, and I couldn't be sure that Dursley were asleep yet. Until they were, I couldn't risk sneaking into the kitchen for some food. I'd lived with the Dursleys almost 10 years, 10 miserable years, as long as I can remember. Ever since I've been a baby and my parents had died in that car crash. I couldn't remember being in the car when my parents had died. Sometimes when I strained my memory during long hours in the cupboard, I came up with a strange vision, a blinding flash of green light and a burning pain in my forehead. This, I supposed, was the crash, but I couldn't imagine where all the green light came from. I couldn't remember my parents at all. My aunt and uncle never spoke about them. Of course, I was forbidden to ask questions. There were no photographs of them in the house. When I had been younger, I had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take me away, but it never happened. The Dursleys were my only family. Yet somehow, I thought that strangers in the street seemed to know me. Very strange strangers they were, too. A tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to me once while I was shopping with Aunt Petunia and Dudley. A wild-looking old woman dressed all in green had waved merrily at me once on a bus. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken my hand in the street the other day and then walked away without a word. At school, I only had my sensei, but no friends my own age. Everyone knew that Dudley's gang hated that odd Rose Potter in my baggy old clothes. That's a weird point of view thing. And no one liked to disagree with Dudley's gang. Alright. Nice.
It's a very strange thing to bring up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just doing some stuff in the Discord while I okay.
I wonder how much of this you end up editing out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I don't know if I'll be actually editing the... Yeah, I'll probably go through it. I mean, good thing is I know how to edit videos now. Thanks to Zetta. I've been using Lightworks. That's the same software he uses. Okay, anyway. Okay. Chapter 2, The Letter and the Professor. The escape of the Brazilian boa constrictor earned me my longest ever punishment. By the time I was allowed out of my cupboard again, the summer holidays had started, and Dudley had already broken his new Cine camera. It's called a video camera in the original, I think. Crashed his remote control airplane, or maybe that was the American version, that's the localized version. But I don't know. Okay, and British English, I guess. And first time on his racing bike, knocked down old Mrs. Fig as she crossed Privet Drive on her crutches. I was glad school was over, but I hated to stay in the house. This is why I spend so much time outside it, wandering around thinking about the end of the holidays where I could see a tiny ray of hope. When September came, I'd be going off to secondary school, and for the first time in my life, I wouldn't be with Dudley. Dudley had a place at Uncle Vernon's old school, Smeltings. Pierce Polkus was going there too. I, on the other hand, was going to Stonewall High, the local comprehensive. I was looking forward to the opportunity to start fresh. But one day in July, Aunt Petunia took Dudley to London to buy a Smeltings uniform, leaving me at Mrs. Fig's. Yeah, Mrs. Fig wasn't as bad as usual. It turned out she'd broken her leg tripping over one of her cats and didn't seem quite as fond of them as before. She let me watch TV and gave me a bit of chocolate cake that tasted as though she'd had it for several years. That evening, Dudley paraded around the living room for the family in his brand new uniform. Smelting's boys wore maroon tailcoats, orange knickerbockers, and flat straw hats called boaters. They also carried knobbly sticks used for hitting each other while the teachers weren't looking. This is supposed to be good training for later life. As I looked at Dudley in his new knickerbockers, Uncle Vernon said gruffly that was the proudest moment of her life. Aunt Petunia burst into tears and she said she couldn't. This is, again, just plagiarized. Aunt Petunia burst into tears and said she couldn't believe his Uncle Duddykins. He looked so handsome and grown up. I did not trust myself to speak. I thought two of my ribs might have already cracked from trying not to laugh. There was a horrible smell in the kitchen next morning. Next morning when I went in for breakfast, it seemed to be coming from a large metal tub in the sink. I went to have a look. The tub looked like dirty rags swimming in gray water. A perfect metaphor for this story as a whole. "What's this?" I asked Aunt Petunia. "Your new school uniform," she said. I looked in the bowl again. Oh, I said, feigning a dash of sarcasm in my words. How do you feign sarcasm? I don't know if this line is in the original story, but hey, I didn't realize it had to be so wet. Don't be stupid, snapped Aunt Petunia. I'm dyeing some old skirts and things gray for you. It'll look like everyone else's when I'm finished. I seriously doubted this, but I thought it best not to argue. Dudley and Uncle Vernon came in, both with wrinkled noses because of the smell from my new uniform. Uncle Vernon opened his newspaper as usual, and Dudley banged his smelting stick, which he carried everywhere on the table. They heard the click of the letterbox and flop of letters on the doormat. Get the post, Dudley, said Uncle Vernon from behind his paper. Make Rose get it. Get the post, Rose. With a scowl, I went, oh, okay. Now this is when things actually kick off. With a scowl, I went to get the post.
Oh.
3 things lay onto the doormat. A postcard for Uncle Vernon's sister Marge, who was holidaying on the Isle of Wight. A brown envelope that looked like a bill, and a letter for me. I picked up and stared at it, my heart twanging like a giant elastic band. No one ever in my whole life had written to me. Who would? I had no friends, no other relatives, and yet here it was, addressed so plainly there could be no mistake. Miss R.J. Potter, at the cupboard under the stairs. 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey. The envelope was thick and heavy, made of yellowish parchment. And the address was written in emerald green ink. There was no stamp. Turned the envelope over. Over, my hand trembling, I saw a purple wax seal bearing coat of arms, a lion, an eagle, a badger, and a snake surrounding a large letter H. Hurry up, girl, shouted Uncle Vernon for the kitchen. What are you doing, checking for letter bombs? He chuckled at his own joke. I went back to the kitchen, still staring at my letter. I handed Uncle Vernon the bill and the postcard, sat down, slowly began to open the yellow envelope. Yeah, I was at the point of unfolding her letter, but with lightning-quick reflexes, shoved it down my shirt before Uncle Vernon could snatch it out of my hand. Yep, Senran Kagura up in here. I should have known that this had happened, that they would try to deprive me of the only letter that I'd ever gotten in my life, my only hope. Yep, it took one look to know that Uncle Vernon would not stop until he had the letter. His grubby sausage-like hands were encroaching on my personal space, and I was sure he wasn't above ripping my baggy shirt off to get the letter. Never mind that I didn't even have a bra on underneath.
Was there There's no point to bringing that up.
Yeah,
now it just makes the dude look bad.
Again, we all know Uncle Vernon is horrible. We don't need to imply incestuous child molestation to get us to hate him. I mean, I guess you're just trying to make everyone else horrible to try and make Rose likable, even though that will not happen ever. And I don't think he would do that. I don't think he would do that. I mean...
Like, I think what this is that it's an attempt at making... So, like you said, they're just trying to make everyone look bad. But what that's doing... The reason why, or the most likely reason why, is because... it's to hide the fact that the character themselves isn't likable on normal circumstances.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to be around someone who's generally violent?
Yeah, it's like, okay, I instantly fell into a balanced stance with my side to Uncle Vernon, my arms tucked in and protecting my ribcage while my hands are right around my face, ready to deflect and strike back. With a surge of adrenaline, my mind slipped into void. Yep, and here comes the beginning of the beginning of many entirely made-up mechanics in this story. Void was a term my sensei used to describe a state of awareness. Oh, what martial art is she doing here? Because I don't think void is a technical term in any martial art. I mean, given that she knows instant transmission, I guess that I guess she's just doing whatever the scions do. okay, a state of awareness, which is all-encompassing, it allowed you to see everything that was happening around you all at once, and time slowed to a snail's pace. Zawaruda! At least it was that way for me. Uncle Vernon's hand was almost ready to grab me when I used the outside of my right hand to deflect the encroaching limb's path to move past me to the right. My left leg came forward to stand behind my uncle's legs, and with a snap, my left flat palm hit his elbow while I pulled his hand towards me. I couldn't hear the sickening crack as Uncle Vernon's arm was grotesquely broken, but from the expression of pain on his chubby face, I could imagine how this hurt. I had noticed that Dudley had come from behind and was intent to use his smelting stick on me. In Void, it took almost 5 seconds from my perspective for the stick to surge downward, intent on hitting me in the back of the head. I twisted easily out of the way and was now behind Uncle Vernon. The expression of horror on Dudley's face as he totally missed the target and hit his own father on the forehead was absolutely hilarious. Dudley did not have long to contemplate events as his father fell to the floor unconscious. I had considered that attempted hit with the smelting stick an attack on my person, even though it had clearly missed. I rushed forward and hit Dudley with a flat palm strike directly in the sternum. Dudley gasped as all the air was forcibly expelled from his lungs, and he flew backwards off his feet and crumpled against the wall, joining his father in the land of Nod.
Good lord.
Yeah.
I know they're unlikable. But they're not that unlikable.
Yeah, it's like, and and it's like, it's the fact that she brought up, oh, I had considered that an attack on my, even though it missed, that's reason enough for, even though it missed, and he'd probably be too, he'd probably, honestly, he would probably surrender after realizing that, hey, he's not gonna be doing anything to her, but, yeah, I turned around and let go of the Void. I didn't have to worry about, it's like, what she said had, like, if she hadn't said that, I mean, it probably might have worked out better, but, no, but she is portraying herself as the initiator here. Yeah, with that, I turned around and let go of the Void. I didn't have to worry about my Aunt Petunia. She was as white as a sheet and still seated in the chair at the kitchen table, staring in fear and horror at me. I was still operating on a surge of adrenaline and couldn't think of only one thing to do. It was clear that I couldn't stay here anymore when the two Dursley males woke up. I would not put it past them to call the police or social services and have me taken away. They would make up some story about how I'd just gone insane and assaulted them, and I knew the police would believe them and not me, and no one did. I rushed to the cupboard under the stairs and grabbed a small bag and placed as many clothes as I could stuff into it. That was a weird sentence. Next, I rushed towards the front door of number 4 and ran outside and down the street. My only option was to go to Mrs. Fig and hope against hope that the old lady would help and believe me. I rushed out of breath to the front door of the house I had been to so many times and knocked. It was a few moments before the door opened, and Mrs. Fig seemed to blink in surprise as she noticed my out-of-breath presence. How many times have you said out of breath? Okay. With a small sling bag over her shoulder. Dear, what's the matter? Asked the old lady. I need help urgently. Can I come in, Mrs. Fig, please? I begged with a note of panic. This seemed to register with Mrs. Fig, and she nodded once and allowed me to rush inside and fling myself on the couch and cradle my head in my hands despairingly. The old lady walked in and sat down across from me, wearing a deeply concerned expression. My breathing slowed down and my hands started to shake. Something my sensei had told me was an after effect of an adrenaline rush. What happened, my dear? Said Mrs. Fig. It took a few moments for me to gather the composure to speak intelligently, but eventually I told Mrs. Fig of the letter and how the Dursleys wanted to take it away, even when I had had it stuffed down my shirt. I also told Mrs. Fig of how I had defended myself. You nearly murdered these people, and then coming to her, fearing that the Dursleys would simply spin a story and have the police arrest her. I noticed that as I told my tale that Mrs. Fig seemed to get angrier and angrier, her lips contorted in a thin line. That bastard! Exclaimed Mrs. Fig. Don't worry, Rose, you're safe here. Alright. Alright. I just need to go make a quick call. Mrs. Fig stood and got a mischievous smile on her face, something I'd never seen before. Yeah, I suggest you read your letter. The letter, though. Mrs. Fig disappeared into her basement where the cabbage smell constantly wafted from. With a curious frown on her face, I reached down my shirt and the point of view swaps are are the least horrible thing about what's happening right now. I unfurled the now scrunched letter and read, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Sorcerer, Chief Warlock, Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards. Dear Miss Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have a place at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find and close a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await you, Owl. We await you, Owl. By no later than we await you, Owl. I'm not an owl. By no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Questions exploded inside my head like fireworks, and I couldn't decide which to ask first, nor who should I ask. My mind flashed when I saw Mrs. Fig give me a knowing smile and told me to read the letter as if she knew it was coming. I didn't know how long I sat there staring at empty space, but I snapped out of it as Mrs. Fig sat down in front of me with the tea set and blue cookies. It's a big revelation, is it not? Said Mrs. Fig with a smile as she sipped her tea. I'm sipping tea in the hood. What the f*** is up, buttercup? So, I'm a witch, I said hesitantly. Mrs. Fig nodded. How long have you known? How long have you known? My questions just seemed to spring from my mind like popcorn. That's certainly a metaphor. Since you were a baby, answered Mrs. Fig. Are you a witch? Are you a witch? Mrs. Fig sighed and placed the cup down. She seemed to stare off into space until she seemed to come to a decision. No, but both my parents were a wizard and a witch, said Mrs. Fig softly. So, all the weird things that happen around me, that's my magic? I asked. Yes, said Mrs. Fig. But Rose, while I can answer all your questions quite thoroughly, it's not my place to. I've contacted Headmaster Dumbledore, and I'm sure he'll be sending someone along shortly to explain everything to you. Someone who's qualified to. But, I began, but was interrupted. No, Rose, I can't say anything more. Just sit here calmly, drink your tea, have some cookies. Your answers will come soon, said Mrs. Fig. The next half hour was one of longest I had ever experienced in my shortly 11-year-old life. Oh, shortly 11-year-old. There should be dashes in between that. I thought you were saying my short 11-year-old life. My short 11-year-old life, but no. Shortly as in soon to be 11 years old. For a moment I thought I was in void, but... Stop that. But Mrs. Fig still moved normally as she started to knit. I had slowly finished all the cookies in the tray, and the tea kettle had long since gone cold. It got to the point where I decided to sit on the floor in full lotus position, close my eyes, and start chanting a mantra in my head. I usually only meditated when I had at least about 2 hours free ahead of me or was in the cupboard. It startled me when I was interrupted on my rolling green landscapes of solace by my name being called. It seemed like it was coming from miles away, and then in a rush, the world of my mind vanished and I fell to the floor on my rear. I snapped open my eyes in furious irritation and looked around for it, interrupted my peaceful world back to the harsh reality that contained the cruel Dursleys. That is a run-on sentence. A tall, black-haired woman in emerald green robes stood next to Mrs. Fig. Both had a startled look of astonishment on their faces. The only thing on my mind was to vent my irritation. What's the big idea? I snapped, rubbing my sore back. You don't just yell someone out of meditative state. It's dangerous. Why? Not to mention I stopped hovering. She was hovering. Who does she think she is? Zenyatta?
There was no indication that she was doing that in the first place.
Yeah, we weren't even made clear. If she did that on the regular, that would have been a pretty clear indication that she was a witch, or that there was something, because I don't think that happens, or is it just ninja powers?
That's not That's not even an actual thing that can happen. I understand wizard stuff, but like, really?
I mean, yeah, it's like, okay,
It makes no sense.
okay, the woman's lips thinned into a stern line, and I was clearly left with the impression that this was not someone to cross. I think introduction. Oh wait, hang on. Okay, first of all, yeah, I can't do. I wish I could do a Professor McGonagall impression, but I can't. I think introductions are in order, said the woman sitting down across from me on the couch. I am Professor McGonagall, and I will be your deputy headmistress at Hogwarts. Arabella has fully informed me of this day's events, and I will be happy to... wait, hang on. Did I just mess with the mic volume? Okay, no, this is just, my headphones. Okay. Okay. Arabella has fully informed me of this day's events, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have about Hogwarts, and of course about your true heritage. Somehow... Okay, somehow this... I don't feel like she would talk like this. It just doesn't seem like her voice. Okay, I flushed in embarrassment as I realized that I just vented at a teacher. But the questions in my mind had become clearer after the meditation, and I sat down on the couch again. I'm sorry I shouted at you, Professor, I said in apology. She actually does something decent for a change. That's alright, Miss Potter, said Professor McGonagall. I don't question whether magic exists, I said Rose thoughtfully. I mean, it explains everything odd that's been happening around me, and it explains some of the things I can do. My first question is, does the Dursleys know what I am? And there's an apostrophe in Dursleys, so does the Dursleys know what I am? Does Bruno Mars is gay? They were given a letter explaining everything to them the night you were delivered on their doorstep, said the professor. Your Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon most definitely knew, as both your parents, Rose, were magicians. They don't use the term magician. In that case, if I ever return to number 4, I shall break Uncle Vernon's other arm, as they never told me why I am. Holy disproportionate retribution, Batman! Said in a hard, unwavering voice. I was constantly punished for anything odd happening. Professor McGonagall's mouth had thinned even more. How did my parents die? This question brought forth gasps from both older men. Also, if I may bring another thing up. So Harry gets introduced to the magical world by Hagrid. But Rose, oh no, we're not doing that. No, we get a personal visit from Professor McGonagall, one of the most awesome characters in the entire series. Because of course, Mary Sue must have all of the best characters, the highest level characters fawning over her right away. Okay, you mean you don't know? Said Mrs. Fig. The Dursleys lied about my heritage. I think they lied about this too. I highly doubt my magical parents died in something as normal as a car crash, nor does a lightning bolt-shaped scar appear from an event like that. And oh yeah, and
already getting to that point, huh?
Yep, and we're already rather than having him figure this out now. Well, she's just figured this out as if, I mean, yeah, okay, I mean, granted, I suppose this isn't exactly that bad, that much of a stretch to realize. I mean, it is pretty strongly implied in Harry Potter that he was pretty on to the Dursleys and didn't believe what they told him about his parents' death, but I did suspect something wrong. But the way it's brought up here is just really unnatural. In the original story, he's like, Aunt Petunia reveals that they got themselves blown up. And he's like, blown up? You told me they died in a car crash. But anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, a car crash? Exclaimed Mrs. Fig incredulously. A car crash killed Lily and James Potter? It's an outrage! It's a scandal! Rose Potter does not know her own life history when every kid in the world knows it in her name? And here we have Mrs. Fig jacking Hagrid's lines. Well, when her voice does not match at all. But why? What happened? I asked urgently. Oh, I am so going to flog Albus Dumbledore when I see him. Okay, said Mrs. Fig. Okay, Mrs. Fig does not say, I am so gonna do this, like a valley girl. I should have taken her under my wing, but no, he orders me to keep my distance, and look what this isolation has done. Calm yourself, Arabella, instructed the professor, who, despite her own calm voice, I could see her furiously red cheeks. Wait. Instructed the professor, who, despite her own calm voice, I could see her furiously red cheeks. Another screwed up sentence. Well, Rose, this is unexpected, you knowing so little, but it's best you know as much as I can tell you. However, some parts of the story I do not know, as it's a great mystery. Professor McGonagall finished her cup of tea and set it down. It begins with a wizard who went evil. And now Professor McGonagall is jacking Hagrid's lines. Does Hagrid have any point in this story at all? Okay, as evil as you could go. Worse than worse. His name was Voldemort. Are you sure it's not Vladimort or Volsamort or Voldemorts?
Wasn't there a big thing where people found out that the T wasn't pronounced?
Well, that's Voldemort's name in French. Well, in French, in French it's Voldemort, which means flight from death, hence which is why he took that name. But I mean, in English you do pronounce it. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, the professor took a long time to say the name as if she had to. When it's Voldemort. Volsamort and the Death Dealers. yeah. I am still waiting for someone to actually make a rock band called Volsamort and the Death Dealers. Like, it's been how many years since My Immortal was released? And we're still waiting. And then she said both she and Mrs. Fig shuddered. Anyway, this wizard about 20 years ago started looking for followers. And he got them. Some were afraid, some just wanted a bit of his power for themselves because he was becoming very powerful. It was her dark days, Rose. You did not know who to trust. You didn't dare get friendly with strange wizards or witches. Terrible things happened. He was swiftly taking over the wizarding world. There were those who stood against him. But anyone who did ended up dead. One of the only safe places left was Hogwarts. Professor Dumbledore was the only wizard who was ever afraid of. Now your mother and father were as good a witch and wizard as I ever had the pleasure to teach. They were head boy and girl at Hogwarts in their day. They were so good that it was rather strange, who didn't try to recruit them. But they were too close to Dumbledore and would never want anything to do with the dark side, explained the professor. All anyone knows for a fact is he turned up in the village where you were living with your parents on Halloween 10 years ago. You were a year old. He came to your house and murdered them. Professor McGonagall took out a hanky and dabbed tears from her eyes. Damn! I apologize. It made me realize that. Yeah, I know this is supposed to be an emotional moment, but screw your emotional moment. This is a god-awful fanfiction. You do not deserve it. And it's plagiarized, too. The professor handed me hanky to use as well. Me hanky. I too had tears pouring from my eyes. The professor handed me hanky to use as well. Now begins the real mystery of the whole story, said Professor McGonagall. You know who tried to kill you too. You want to leave no loose ends, and clearly had no intention of leaving the offspring of his enemy alive. Ever wondered how you got hat scar on your forehead, Rose? Hat scar. I guess that's what happens when you wear a hat that's too small for too long, and you get those indentations around your forehead. Hat scar. Is that what that is? I could only nod. That mark is left when a powerful evil curse touches you, said the professor. It's the curse that killed your mother and father, destroyed your house, but destroyed your house? What? Avada Kedavra is basically a biobomb. An undodgeable, unblockable, can only be deflected by Expelliarmus. Yeah, it doesn't destroy any non-living material. It doesn't destroy stuff. Yeah, but for some reason it did not work on you, and that's why you're famous, Rose. No one ever lived after you know who decided to kill them. No one except you. And he killed some of the best witches and wizards of the age, the McKinnons, the Boneses, the Pruitts, and you were only a baby, and yet you lived. Something very painful was going on in my mind. As Professor McGonagall's story came to a close, I saw again the blinding flash of green light, more clearly than I had ever remembered it before, and I remembered something else for the first time in my life. A high, cold, cruel laugh. Mrs. Fig was watching me sadly. Rubius Hagrid, oh, he is in the story, the Hogwarts gamekeeper, took you from the ruined house on Headmaster Dumbledore's orders and brought you to the Dursleys, said the professor distastefully. But what happened to Voldemort? I asked suddenly. Both older women flinched again. That is a good question, Rose. He vanished. Disappeared. The same night as he tried to kill you. Professor Dumbledore is of the opinion that you know whose powers were destroyed, and his body as well, while his spirit is out there still waiting. Some say he died, which I dispute, as I don't believe you know who was human enough to die. Professor McGonagall would not say that. And for good reason. Yeah, she's very technical. She doesn't say, I don't believe he was human enough to die. Yeah, that's another line Jack from Hagrid. Some say he died.
Yeah.
Codswallop, in my opinion. Don't reckon he had enough human left in him to die. I turned my eyes back to the letter and read the second page of it. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Mystery. Uniform. First year students will require 3 sets of plain work robes, black, 1 plain pointed hat, black for day wear. They never wear the pointed hats well, Professor McGonagall was, but none of the students ever do. Something I noticed. 1 pair of protective gloves, dragon hide or similar. 1 winter cloak, black, silver fastenings. Please note that all pupils' clothes should carry name tags. Funny thing here's a funny thing. This uniform list was actually replicated down to the letter in the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone game on Game Boy Color. Yeah, you have to go shopping for your level 1 gear, and you have to buy 3 plain work robes. Yeah, it's like you only get 1 of them because you don't need 3 duplicates of the same items. And you buy your pointed hat, you buy your dragon skin gloves, you buy your winter cloak, and you buy a pack of name tags, which does nothing, but hey, it's there because it was in the story. Okay. Yeah. Okay, set books. All students should have a copy of each of the following. Standard Book of Spells, Grade 1 by Miranda Goshawk. A History of Magic by Bathilda Bagshot, Magical Theory by Adalbert Waffling, A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration by Emmerich Switch, 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi by Fidilla Spore, Magical Drafts and Potions by Arsenius Jigger, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. Incidentally, I mentioned that we saw Crimes of Grindelwald recently, but yeah, Crimes of Grindelwald was, it was pretty good. But I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there are certain things they had better rectify in the third one, or I'm going to be very angry and refuse to acknowledge that it happened. Because seriously, the first Fantastic Beasts movie ended perfectly. Right, and then the second one came along and... I mean, it was still good, but hey, now I'm getting off topic. Okay. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and the Dark Forces, A Guide to Self-Protection by Quentin Trimble. Other equipment, 1 wand, 1 standard-sized 2 pewter cauldron, 1 set glass or crystal vials, 1 telescope, 1 set brass scales. Students may also bring an owl or a cat or a toad. Parents are reminded that first years are not allowed their own broomsticks. Can we buy all this in London? I asked, quite flabbergasted at the requirements. Of course, if you know where to go, said the professor, taking out a small pocket watch and staring at it. When can I go? I have no way to get to London. I said she could always give a ring to her sensei for a lift. Oh my god. Perspective changes mid-sentence. Though, I choose to interpret this as she could, as being a third-person and being a further indicator of her vanity. The great Rose Potter could always give a ring to a sensei for a lift. Or either that or she's trying to be all cutesy, like Darkness does in, Danpara. Yeah. Don't worry, Miss Potter. I will be escorting you to London today, so we can get your school things. We'll be taking the train. Because the deputy headmistress of Hogwarts has nothing better to do than wait around for the show!
Yeah.
Professor McGonagall
putting
her watch away. Yeah?
It gets to a point where it's like, that this person has to know that the majority of these characters wouldn't actually do that.
Yeah, it's terribly out of character, and this is supposed to be a Fix Fic. This is supposed to be something that's rectifying Harry Potter's common sense errors. Well, we all know that was just a fraud anyway. He just wants to write this thing.
He just wanted to insert a character that doesn't belong.
Tap, 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 tap. It's the SAX! Oh my god! Da, 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 da. No. No. Strange enough, there were 2 owls rapping on the windows with their beaks. Hey, yo, owl gang. Owl gang. Mrs. Fig hurried over and allowed the 2 nocturnal birds to enter. Yes, owls are nocturnal. Good on you for knowing. Entrance to land on the desk. One owl had a newspaper and the other carried what seemed to be a beautiful mauve envelope. Professor McGonagall went over and handed the newspaper carrying owl 5 small bronze coins. One fell out of her hand and rolled over to me. I picked up the money. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. That is a run-on sentence. That really should be 2 sentences. I had just had a heart-wrenching realization, though, as McGonagall Open the other envelope. I haven't got any money. And the Dursleys would no sooner stop spoiling Dudley than pay for my school things. That sentence is not, it should be, the Dursleys would sooner stop spoiling Dudley than pay for my school things. It's like when people say, I could care less, instead of I couldn't care less. Saying I could care less means you do care, at least a little. I said in a half miserable and half angry voice. The first stop for us then is Gringotts, the wizard bank. Your parents didn't leave you with nothing. So wizards have their own banking system. I stayed on thought. Indeed, but just the one bank. Gringotts. It's one of my goblins. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that goblins actually exist now, should I? I asked with a laugh. Yeah, indeed, a lot of muggle, non-magic folk, fairy tales, you'll find actually do exist in the wizarding world. Said Mrs. Fig. Professor McGonagall huffed at the contents of the letter she received, and Mrs. Fig was glancing up at the newspaper. I see the Ministry of Magic is messing things up as usual, said Mrs. Fig. You don't know the half of it. I don't know how Albus can stand having that incompetent buffoon pestering him for advice constantly. Incompetent buffoon, are you sure you don't want to call them a ludicrous fool? Or a mediocre dunce? There's a Ministry of Magic? I asked with interest. Of course, said McGonagall. McGonagall. How do you misspell her name? They wanted Headmaster Dumbledore from his room, of course, but he'd never leave Hogwarts, so Cornelius Fudge got the job, an incompetent politician if there ever was one. So he pelts the headmaster with owls every morning, asking for advice. What's the ministry's main function? I asked. What's the ministry's main function? Harry would never talk like that. Harry doesn't talk like that. He would say, what does the ministry do? This makes more sense. He's 11. I asked to think of wizarding versions of the Muggle government. Their main task is to keep our existence a secret from Muggles, as there are still witches and wizards everywhere. But what? Hide ourselves, I asked. Imagine the chaos we'd find ourselves in. All the Muggles would want to themselves in. That comma should be a semicolon. All the Muggles would want to come to us for magical solutions to their problems. No, we're best left alone, said McGonagall. And that is the end of chapter 2. And seeing as we've been recording for an hour and 10 minutes, I think this is where we'll end things off. Yeah, we'll probably do 2 chapters in an episode.
Probably.
Yeah, and next time I'll send you and anyone else who wants to hop on, I'll send you the PDFs so you can read along and you guys can actually have some stuff to read, because like, yeah, it didn't seem like you got to say very much in this episode. But hey, yeah, until next time, this has been Dreigonix and we will see you all next time.